My friends, gather around once more and hear the reflections of an old man who has walked many paths, each guided by the quiet, persistent light of Stoicism. I have witnessed over the years how precious time and focus are, two treasures that, once lost, cannot be easily regained. Men in their prime, from their late 20s to the doorstep of old age, often find themselves pulled in 1,000 directions, distracted by the clamor of modern life and the ceaseless churn of obligations. So it is that I wish to speak to you about 10 essential Stoic principles to reclaim your time and focus. And while these may be labeled principles, you will not find them set apart in tidy bullet points. Rather, I will let them arise naturally from my stories, from the lessons gleaned over decades, trusting that you, dear listener, will recognize them as they surface. For Stoicism was never about memorizing words in a list. It is about cultivating habits of mind that free us from the chains we unknowingly forge for ourselves. Now, if you are new here, please like the video and subscribe. Statistics show that only 15% of my audience is subscribed to the channel, so if this content has helped you in any way, I ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let me begin with a memory. I was once a brash young man, bursting with plans and ambition, but ironically, always feeling I had no time. I juggled countless tasks, striving to impress superiors and peers alike, believing that if I crammed enough accomplishments into my day, life would reward me with a sense of worth. Yet the more I chased, the less time I seemed to have. Anxiety dogged my every step. I was perpetually late, behind schedule, or too harried to savor any achievement. Looking back, I see that I was a slave to external pressures, measuring my days by how many chores I could complete, not by whether I had lived in alignment with reason and purpose. That was the first seeds of Stoic wisdom that would later take root in me. We must distinguish between the tasks that truly reflect our calling and those that are mere illusions of obligation. Why illusions? Because we often create false imperatives in our minds. We tell ourselves we must answer every email within minutes, must attend every social engagement, must acquire more possessions or experiences, or else we are falling behind. Yet Stoicism teaches that time itself is neutral, a measure of change, neither friend nor foe. It is our use or misuse of time that grants it significance. If we choose to fill our days with trifles or distractions, then we squander life's most precious resource. But if we choose deliberately, focusing on what truly matters, our moral development, our relationships, our meaningful contributions, then we will find that time, though finite, is sufficient for living well. Thus emerges the first principle embedded in the Stoic tradition. To reclaim your time, you must become a discerning judge of which pursuits truly serve your higher purpose and which are but empty motions stirred by vanity or fear. You might ask, how does one develop such discernment? The Stoic approach is twofold. We cultivate self-awareness, and we anchor ourselves in a vision of what a life well lived looks like. Marcus Aurelius would often write about how trivial most things are from a cosmic vantage. He implored himself not to let petty concerns or ephemeral desires steal precious mental space. So let me urge you to practice a simple reflection. Each morning, ask yourself what tasks or actions, if done wholeheartedly, would bring you closer to your ideals. Be that moral strength, mastery of your craft, or deeper connections with those who matter most. Then, each evening, review whether your day was spent in alignment with those intentions, or if you let yourself be swept up in a storm of minor obligations that add little to your true sense of fulfillment. In doing this, you train your mind to spot the difference between duties that actually matter, caring for family, developing your skills, honoring promises, and false duties that only nibble away at your focus. Over time, you become more adept at saying no, for you realize that each yes to trivia is a no to something of greater worth. But let me weave in a story that highlights how these Stoic principles can unfold in ordinary life. There was a time in my middle years when my job demanded frequent travel, and I found myself constantly on the move, living out of a suitcase, forever responding to calls, emails, messages. My family saw little of me, and even when I was home, I was half absorbed in planning the next trip. One day, my young son asked me if I could set aside an evening to help him with a school project. Absurdly, I felt anxious. Could I spare that time? My schedule was packed, my mind was buzzing with tasks. Then it dawned on me. Had I become so consumed by external demands that I would balk at spending an evening with my child? I realized that if I could not even reorder my priorities to give my son the attention he deserved, my sense of time was truly out of sync. So I cancelled some lesser engagements, informed colleagues I would be offline for that evening, and devoted myself to my son's project. What a gift it turned out to be, not only for him but for me as well. I saw, with clarity, how precious those moments of undivided focus can be, and how ephemeral the so-called professional urgencies often are. In that small act, I reclaimed a bit of my time, aligning it with what my conscience told me was right. This experience captures the second principle that Stoicism quietly teaches, that we must guard our time as vigilantly as a fortress, not letting external claims upon us override the deeper duties we owe to ourselves and those we love. Another dimension of time reclamation arises from the Stoic conviction that we should neither dwell excessively on the past nor become consumed by the future. You have likely heard the Stoic admonition not to waste energy lamenting what is done or pining for what has not yet occurred. But how does this principle help us regain our focus? Because so often men sabotage their productivity and clarity by rehashing old regrets or indulging fantasies about future triumphs, letting the present slip by unnoticed. Epictetus taught that the only time truly at our disposal is the now, this moment, this action, this decision. If you find your mind drifting to how you might have handled a conversation differently last week, or how glorious life will be once you retire, you are essentially squandering the moment in which real change and real engagement happen. By disciplining your mind to return to the present, you sharpen your focus. You stop dividing your attention between the unchangeable past, the unknowable future, and the tasks at hand. That is the Stoic approach to mindfulness, if you will. An unwavering presence in the here and now, buttressed by an acceptance of what cannot be undone, and a willingness to let the future unfold without obsessive preoccupation. To illustrate this, I recall an acquaintance who would spend hours each day fantasizing about how his business would flourish in 5 years, how wealthy and admired he would be. Ironically, he neglected the immediate tasks, engaging clients, refining his product, managing finances, that could make that future a reality. He would tinker with marketing slogans or imagine lavish expansions, yet skip vital steps like balancing his accounts or following up with leads. Over time, his venture crumbled, undone by the gap between his grand visions and his meager present actions. Stoic philosophy would have nudged him to invest his mental energy in the daily, concrete efforts that build a stable foundation. He might still have allowed himself moments of strategic, long-term thinking, but never at the expense of ignoring what needed doing right now. Thus emerges a third principle. You reclaim time and focus by returning your mind repeatedly to the present responsibilities, refusing to be hypnotized by regrets or daydreams. Yet there is another essential piece. We must learn to differentiate between what is urgent and what is important. Seneca famously wrote that certain tasks feel pressing but carry little enduring value, while others may appear less time-sensitive yet contribute greatly to our growth or to the welfare of those around us. Modern life abounds with notifications, messages, calls, each clamoring for immediate attention, each masquerading as urgent. The Stoic mind sees past this noise, asking, will this matter tomorrow, a week from now, or a year hence? If the answer is no, then we do not give it priority. By practicing this Stoic triage, you do not let your day be hijacked by trivial urgencies. You funnel your energy into undertakings that genuinely move you forward. Perhaps you do not check your email incessantly. Maybe you disable certain alerts on your phone. Some might label this approach unresponsive or inflexible, but Stoicism encourages us to place virtue and true value above the demands of ephemeral tasks. In being selective, we are not lazy or negligent. We are simply refusing to scatter our focus on that which yields no real benefit. This leads us to a fourth principle: reclaim your time, by distinguishing between what screams for attention and what truly deserves it. But perhaps the single greatest thief of time in our modern era is distraction, the myriad of small amusements and digital lures that promise quick bursts of pleasure or novelty. Stoicism's entire framework stands in opposition to mindless indulgence. We are asked at every turn to weigh whether the things we do contribute to the cultivation of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Now, this does not mean a Stoic must be grim or joyless. It simply means that we do not let fleeting diversions dominate our precious hours. The Stoic man, if he chooses to engage in some leisurely pastime, reading a novel, enjoying a game with friends, does so with full awareness, setting boundaries so that the leisure remains balanced. He does not become addicted or let it consume his day. That sense of proportion is critical. If you find yourself scrolling mindlessly for hours, ask, am I truly benefiting from this? Or am I letting time slip through my fingers out of restlessness or habit? Overcoming such distractions may require firm self-imposed rules, perhaps blocking certain sites during work hours or limiting entertainment to a designated time of day. The Stoic approach helps us see that our mental energies are finite, and the more we fritter them away on trifling pursuits, the less we have for higher endeavors. Hence arises a fifth principle. Reclaiming time demands we set boundaries against the pull of trivial amusements, practicing mindful restraint in our consumption of media and idle pastimes. Let me speak of a dear friend who, not too long ago, confided in me that he felt perpetually behind, unable to concentrate on anything meaningful. He would start his mornings scrolling through news feeds, responding to chat messages, drifting from link to link, so that by noon he had accomplished almost nothing of substance. By the afternoon, he felt guilty and tried to rush important tasks, leading to sloppy results and deeper stress. In the evening, he would numb himself with more mindless browsing, fueling the cycle anew the next day. Stoicism prompted him to design a morning routine that was screen-free for the first hour, a time he used instead for planning, perhaps a brief meditation, or reading a few lines from the Stoics themselves. He also set a strict cutoff for digital amusements after dinner, opting instead to reflect on the day or engage with his family. Over several weeks, he reported a remarkable shift: more clarity, more calm, more progress on the tasks that truly mattered. The Stoic impetus here is deliberate choice rather than default habit, an essential practice if we wish to guard our mental real estate. So you see how Stoic principles can be harnessed to reclaim time and focus in a world that seems intent on scattering them to the winds. Meanwhile, I must address the question of ambition. Men often fear that adopting Stoicism will dull their competitive edge, that if they are not incessantly hustling, they will lose ground in a fierce marketplace. But Stoicism does not equate to passivity. It simply clarifies the difference between purposeful action and frenetic busyness. The Stoic man, upon deciding that a certain goal is aligned with virtue and necessity, pursues it wholeheartedly, sparing no effort. However, he does not chase illusions, nor does he let the goal monopolize every waking minute if it means neglecting health, family, or the cultivation of his own moral capacities. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome and had to manage military campaigns, political intrigues, administrative tasks, but he famously insisted on setting aside time to reflect, to compose his meditations, to maintain a mental equilibrium. If an emperor, with the burdens of an entire empire, could find time for introspection, surely we, in our less extreme circumstances, can carve out space for reflection, rest, and conscious planning. This is the sixth principle, that Stoicism helps us channel ambition into measured, directed effort without letting it devour our entire existence. Now let us weave in another subtle Stoic theme, the acceptance of limitations, both within ourselves and in the world around us. Many men waste time and focus railing against constraints. Perhaps they wish for more capital, more talent, a different environment, never pausing to consider how best to use what they do have. This is the Stoic recognition that you cannot expand the day beyond its hours, nor can you fundamentally alter certain external conditions. But you can adapt, innovate, and direct your resources intelligently within those confines. Perhaps you have only a small window of free time each evening. Well, how can you employ it for maximum growth or connection? Perhaps you do not have the influence to single-handedly transform your company's culture, but you can shape your own team or your own conduct. That focus on what is realistically yours to do or control, rather than lamenting the rest, saves enormous mental bandwidth. Indeed, it is how men accomplish feats once deemed impossible, by applying intense focus where they can actually affect change, unburdened by futile complaints. So emerges a seventh principle. Reclaiming time means ceasing to battle the immovable and instead devoting energy to what lies within your sphere of influence. I recall a moment in my later career when I supervised a small department with limited funding. Some colleagues sulked about our small budget, claiming we could never match the achievements of larger teams with deeper pockets. The Stoic approach I adopted was to see our constraints as a clarifying force, compelling us to innovate, to be selective, to refine our processes. We focused on doing a few things extremely well, rather than scattering ourselves across many half-baked initiatives. In so doing, we earned recognition for our efficiency and creativity, eventually attracting more resources. If we had wasted time bemoaning our initial limitations, we would have squandered that small spark of potential we did possess. This is the Stoic pivot from complaint to constructive action, from envy of what others have to gratitude for what we can do with what is at hand. To amplify our command over time, Stoicism also encourages a kind of mental discipline that defends us from emotional turbulence. Consider how much time is lost in frustration, brooding, or impulsive emotional spirals. If a colleague criticizes your work, do you spend hours stewing in anger or drafting lengthy rebuttals? Or do you, like the Stoic, pause to weigh the validity of the criticism, glean any useful feedback, and disregard the rest? By managing our emotional reactivity, we prevent ourselves from throwing away hours or even days nursing grudges. This is not Stoic numbness, it is Stoic composure. We feel the pang of criticism, acknowledge it, but do not let it overshadow our obligations. We continue with our tasks, perhaps implementing improvements if the critique has merit, or dismissing it if it is baseless. By not letting your mind be hijacked by storms of indignation, you preserve your capacity to focus on what needs doing. This is an eighth principle, Reclaim your time by curbing needless emotional drama, focusing on rational interpretation of events. One day, I witnessed a co-worker spend an entire afternoon ranting about an email that slightly questioned his competence. He took the remark as a grievous insult, replying with scathing messages, fueling more conflict. The back and forth devoured that entire day, leaving him bitter and drained. In stark contrast, if he had read the email, extracted whatever constructive feedback was relevant, politely clarified his position, and moved on, he would have conserved hours of mental clarity. That is the Stoic difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is impulsive and driven by wounded ego, while responding is measured, guided by the question, what action best aligns with reason and virtue? Over time, these small forks in the road accumulate, determining whether we walk the Stoic path of calm efficiency or the frenzied path of sabotage. In synergy with emotional composure is the Stoic idea of negative visualization, which can help you remain unperturbed by sudden disruptions. Suppose you plan your day meticulously, with a clear schedule that you believe will optimize your productivity. Then an unforeseen crisis arises, a family emergency, a major client issue, or a personal mishap. Many men respond with panic or meltdown, cursing the world for breaking their plan, losing hours in emotional upheaval. The Stoic practice of negative visualization prepares you by occasionally envisioning that such disruptions can and will occur, so that when they do, you greet them not with shock, but with readiness. You adapt, address the crisis calmly, and rework your schedule without succumbing to despair. This Stoic resilience, ironically, helps reclaim time because you do not let unexpected events derail your entire day or week. Instead of floundering, you pivot. That is the 9th principle. Keep a mental readiness for adversity so that you can respond with flexible composure rather than letting your entire plan collapse in panic. Finally, I must speak to a principle that ties them all together: gratitude. Men often equate Stoicism with a stern, joyless approach, but in truth, Stoic texts brim with appreciation for life's simple wonders. Marcus Aurelius would note the beauty in nature's cycles, the brilliance of the cosmos, the uniqueness of each moment. Seneca wrote about the gift of life itself, cautioning us not to fritter away our brief span in trivial pursuits. Gratitude in the Stoic sense is not an emotional high, but a grounded recognition that each day is a chance to practice virtue, to forge meaningful bonds, to refine our understanding of the world. When you approach your tasks with gratitude for the opportunity to learn, to serve, to create, you transform even mundane actions into something purposeful. This wards off the burnout or cynicism that kills motivation. You reclaim your time by realizing it is not an endless commodity, but a precious resource to be savored, not merely endured. This is the 10th principle. Adopt a stance of gratitude, for it aligns your focus on what matters and prevents you from sleepwalking through your days, letting them be stolen by distractions or regret. Now, having woven these Stoic insights together, let me reflect on how you might incorporate them without feeling overwhelmed. Stoicism is a lifelong discipline, not a quick fix. You do not, in one day, become perfectly discerning about tasks, immovable in the face of distraction, impervious to emotional storms. Rather, you improve step by step. This is where a daily Stoic reflection, a brief morning and evening practice, can prove invaluable. In the morning, you might read a short passage from a Stoic source or recall one of these principles, setting an intention to remain mindful of it that day. For example, today, I will not let trivial urgencies override my deeper goals. Then, in the evening, you examine how you fared, acknowledging progress or lapses without condemnation, but with resolve to do better tomorrow. Over weeks, you will notice subtle but real shifts in how you allocate your time, how you prioritize tasks, how you respond to emotional triggers or external demands. Consider also the role of mentorship or community. In ancient times, Stoics gathered in schools, discussing and debating how to apply their philosophy to daily life. In our era, you might find a like-minded friend or a small group to share experiences, how you overcame a particular distraction, how you handled an emotionally charged moment with stoic calm. Such mutual reinforcement can keep you accountable. Or you might read or listen to teachings by modern interpreters of Stoicism, gleaning fresh perspectives on timeless truths. The key is consistency. Remind yourself often of the Stoic lens on life so that it becomes second nature to pause and ask, is this action truly in line with my values, or am I squandering time on trifles? One might object, but what if I truly enjoy some of these distractions? Must I cut them out entirely? The Stoic viewpoint is not puritanical. It does not forbid leisure or pleasure, as long as these do not enslave you. If watching a short comedy show helps you unwind and return to your responsibilities with renewed energy, that is no vice, provided you keep it in moderation. The problem arises when leisure or amusement grows beyond reason, consuming hours that should be devoted to more pressing endeavors or eroding your presence with loved ones. Stoicism advocates measured enjoyment, always with an eye on whether the activity aligns with your overarching sense of purpose. Does it help you recharge, or does it become an escape from facing difficulties? That is the crux. By being honest with yourself, you avoid slipping from mindful relaxation into mindless indulgence. To bring this first portion to a close, let me emphasize one final idea: that every moment you fritter away is a moment that could have been invested in building something meaningful, be it your craft, your character, or the well-being of those you care for. This is not meant to guilt you into constant work, but rather to awaken you to the fleeting nature of life. Even the longest human span is short compared to the ages of the universe. If you let trivialities consume your hours, you risk looking back in old age with regret at the greatness you might have achieved, the relationships you might have nurtured, the joys you might have fully embraced. Stoicism, with its relentless focus on conscious choice and moral alignment, offers a pathway to fill your days with intention. By filtering out distractions, realigning with your values, and mastering your emotional states, you seize the hours you do have and ensure they count. And so we have, in a less enumerated way, touched upon the essence of these 10 Stoic principles that help reclaim time and focus. In the next parts, we shall delve deeper, exploring more stories and practical techniques to embed these teachings in your daily routines so that you might experience firsthand the liberation that arises when your time is truly your own, guided by reason and shaped by virtue. For now, take a moment to consider how your day has unfolded thus far. Have you let your mind be pulled in 100 directions, or have you steered yourself with clarity and purpose? And if the answer is the former, do not despair. Stoicism teaches that we can always begin anew, forging a better path tomorrow, or even in the next hour if we so choose. My friends, let us continue this journey through the 10 essential Stoic principles by venturing deeper into the realms of practical application. As we discussed in the earlier portion, these principles are not meant as idle theory, but as frameworks through which we can reclaim time and focus in our daily lives. Indeed, the Stoics themselves were never content to remain in the realm of philosophical abstraction. They cared deeply about how their insights translated into conduct, how they strengthened character and simplified choices. And so shall we proceed, weaving further anecdotes and clarifications so that each of you, in your own station, be you a man at the midpoint of life, juggling responsibilities, or a fellow more advanced in age, reflecting upon the legacy you wish to leave, can find tangible ways to set your priorities aright, calm the roving mind, and ensure that your hours are not frittered away in trivial pursuits or unceasing distractions. Let us turn first to a principle we only touched on briefly in the first part, the art of deliberate scheduling informed by Stoic discernment. The modern world teems with scheduling apps, calendars, reminders, and all manner of organizational tools, yet we often remain frazzled. Why? Because these digital tools, while helpful, do not themselves impose the discipline or clarity of values that Stoicism prescribes. We can fill a calendar with countless errands and tasks, each carrying a false sense of urgency, and end up more scattered than before. The Stoic approach to scheduling is more fundamental. It calls us to ask at the start of each day, what is truly necessary, not from a standpoint of social expectations or superficial obligations, but from the vantage of our deepest commitments. This reflection ensures that when we block out time, we do so consciously, granting our most vital pursuits the prime hours rather than letting them be buried under lesser concerns. I recall a mentor of mine, an older gentleman in the finance sector, who adopted a practice he called morning triage. Before opening his inbox or taking calls, he would list the tasks he believed would have the greatest impact on his goals and responsibilities. He would assign each task a specific time slot, taking care to place the most mentally demanding tasks in the early hours when his mind was sharpest. Only after this triage did he glance at messages or check news updates, carefully ensuring they would not derail his plan. He believed, and I agree, that once you let external inputs flood your consciousness, your priorities risk being replaced by someone else's agenda. He found that by midday, he had often completed the most crucial tasks, leaving the afternoon for collaborative or administrative duties that were less cognitively taxing. This approach resonates with the Stoic emphasis on intentional action. We do not allow happenstance or external demands to dictate our day. We start with a clear-eyed sense of what must be done, and we cling to that sense unless a truly weighty reason arises to alter course. In Stoic terms, this method of scheduling recognizes that our reason is meant to guide our choices, not to be led by the nose. If a day ends and we realize we spent most of our time reacting to small fires, we must ask whether any of these so-called fires truly needed our immediate attention, or whether they were distractions inflated by habit or social pressure. This daily scheduling practice can be supplemented by a weekly review, during which you step back and see if your short-term actions align with your longer-term aspirations. It is here we might recall that principle of differentiating the urgent from the truly important. The Stoic man, in surveying his week, might realize he devoted vast effort to tasks that felt pressing but bore little significance. With this awareness, he can adjust the coming week's plan, carving out more space for what he deems essential. Over time, this cyclical review process fortifies our ability to filter out the noise of the world. Let me now speak more directly to the matter of emotional reactivity and how it devours time. In the first part, I mentioned how anger or indignation can rob us of entire hours. Another example is anxiety, especially in professional settings. Picture a man assigned to deliver a major presentation who spends days spiraling in worry. What if I stumble over my words? What if the audience thinks me incompetent? Rather than using that time to refine his content or practice his delivery calmly, he paces and frets, letting tension mount. When the day arrives, he's exhausted and unprepared, making the anxious prophecy more likely to fulfill itself. Stoicism would have him confront these fears by questioning their basis. Yes, I might stumble, he might admit, but is that truly catastrophic? My worth is not determined by one performance. Let me focus on what is within my control, my preparation, my clarity of argument. He could practice some negative visualization, imagining minor mishaps and seeing that they are surmountable, thus deflating the excessive dread. In so doing, he reclaims the mental space that would have been swallowed by anxiety, directing it into practical measures that enhance his performance. This is a direct application of Stoic principle. We do not waste time on illusions of doom when proactive steps can be taken. Another technique to manage reactivity, especially in conflicts or heated exchanges, is the Stoic pause. Epictetus taught that when an impression strikes, an insult, a provocation, we should not immediately assent to it. Instead, we pause, examine whether the provocation truly demands a response, or if it is better to let it pass. This short hesitation, even a few seconds, can prevent an impulsive outburst that spirals into hours of regret or protracted argument. For instance, if a colleague fires off a snippy comment during a meeting, the Stoic approach might be to pause, reflect on whether the remark is worth engaging, and if so, how to respond constructively rather than in anger. By acting with composure, we avoid the emotional upheaval that could consume our focus for the rest of the day. This seemingly minor habit can accumulate into significant time savings over the months and years, not to mention preserving relationships and credibility. Indeed, the old adage, "Count to 10 when you're angry," aligns perfectly with Stoic counsel, but we often fail to see how it directly translates into reclaiming time by averting lengthy quarrels or personal angst. We should also address a subtle saboteur of focus: guilt. Many men carry guilt about not doing enough, not meeting every obligation, not being perfect. This guilt, if left unchecked, can morph into a constant background chatter that saps motivation and clarity. Stoicism, however, invites us to inspect guilt through the lens of reason. If we made a genuine mistake, Stoicism says to correct it where possible, learn from it, then move on. If the guilt stems from unrealistic expectations, believing we can please everyone or accomplish everything, then we must question that assumption. Time is finite. Stoic acceptance of limitation teaches us that it is impossible to be all things to all people. By identifying which commitments truly reflect our core duties and which are driven by guilt-laden compulsion, we free ourselves from an emotional burden that otherwise chews away at our mental bandwidth. As we apply this logic, we find ourselves less inclined to say yes out of guilt or fear of disappointing others, and more inclined to act from a clear understanding of our capacity and values. This, in turn, reclaims focus that would otherwise be lost in anxiety or resentment. Let me relay a story of a client from my consulting days. A middle-aged professional who juggled family, demanding work, and community roles. He constantly felt behind, apologizing to everyone for not doing more. His guilt led him to overextend, piling commitments onto his schedule until he was chronically exhausted and ironically did each task poorly. A Stoic framework helped him differentiate essential responsibilities, providing for his family, fulfilling core job requirements, nurturing key relationships, from optional extras that flattered his sense of being needed but ultimately drained him. By gracefully declining some volunteer roles and social requests that he took on purely out of guilt, he found more time for quality interactions with loved ones and for conscientious performance at work. His guilt subsided, replaced by a sense of calm authenticity. He had recognized that to do a few important things well was more stoically virtuous than to attempt everything and fail or burn out. Thus, the ancient principle that we cannot be everywhere at once or everything to everyone served as a guide to structure his life more sanely. Now let us delve a bit further into a practice we mentioned, the evening review or reflection. While the morning routine sets the day's intentions, the evening review tests how well we carried them out. Marcus Aurelius wrote about examining his own soul each night, identifying where he succumbed to anger, vanity, or distraction. For us, reclaiming time might involve asking, did I remain focused on my priority tasks or get swept up in trivial urgencies? How much time did I spend in fruitless distractions, perhaps scrolling endlessly or indulging in unproductive brooding? Did I handle emotional triggers with composure, or did they derail my focus? Were there moments where I recognized the Stoic principle at play, like ignoring an insult or choosing to do fewer but more important tasks, and did it help? You might jot these thoughts in a journal or simply muse on them in solitude. The goal is not self-flagellation, but honest assessment. Over weeks, patterns emerge. If you notice you're consistently losing hours to the same form of procrastination, that awareness becomes a catalyst for change. If you see that a certain type of email or phone call triggers anxiety, you can devise strategies for coping, perhaps checking email at set times rather than continuously or politely redirecting calls that aren't crucial. This iterative process, a hallmark of Stoic practice, ensures that each day builds upon the lessons of the last, gradually refining how you allocate your most precious resource, your attention. In parallel, you might incorporate negative visualization, specifically regarding time scarcity. Picture scenarios where you lose a chunk of the day unexpectedly, a power outage, a personal emergency, a surprise deadline. How would you cope? If you anticipate such disruptions, you become more flexible, more willing to adapt your schedule without panic. You might also picture the end of your life, a sober Stoic exercise, asking how you would feel about the way you spent the hours if they were truly nearing their end. Did you devote enough attention to what nurtures your spirit or betters the world, or did you chase countless trifles, never feeling satisfied? This is not meant to be morbid, but clarifying. It aligns with Seneca's assertion that we often act as though life is endless, squandering days. Yet when confronted with mortality, we suddenly wish we had used our time more wisely. Let us now revisit the principle of carefully selecting your sphere of control and not overreaching. This resonates with how we choose our battles, how we pick the initiatives we invest in. A Stoic approach to any project or goal is to ask, which parts can I influence directly? Which parts are subject to variables beyond my control? Then we concentrate on what we can genuinely shape, releasing the rest from our mental grip. This yields a double benefit for time management. First, we avoid futilely wrestling with matters we cannot change. Second, we harness our energy where it yields real returns. A friend of mine applied for a government grant to fund a community initiative. Rather than obsessing about the final decision, something the grant committee would make, he poured his focus into crafting an excellent proposal, gathering strong endorsements, and ensuring compliance with the application process. Once submitted, he let it rest, turning his attention to other meaningful tasks. If he spent day after day fretting about whether the committee would favor him, it would do nothing but waste time. He had done all he could. Stoicism taught him to let the outcome unfold. And should the outcome prove unfavorable, Stoicism also readied him to either try again or pivot to a different funding avenue. That composure itself saved him countless hours of worry. We would be remiss not to discuss the synergy between Stoic principles and modern productivity techniques. While ancient Stoics did not speak of time blocking or Pomodoro sessions, their emphasis on intervals of focused effort aligns well with such methods. Consider the practice of working in defined segments, 25 or 50 minutes of deep focus, followed by a short break, ensuring you do not let your mind wander or half-work while checking messages. The Stoic element here lies in the discipline not to yield to every impulse of curiosity or every beep from your device during those intervals. By telling yourself, for the next half hour, I will attend solely to this task, ignoring all else, you enact a Stoic boundary against distractions. You might even find it useful to recast these productivity hacks in Stoic terms. Each work session is a chance to exercise constancy and single-mindedness, while each break is a deliberate rest, not a slip into unbounded procrastination. You have now reached the halfway mark of the video. I congratulate you for trying to become a better version of yourself, and I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day," so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Moreover, Stoicism counsels that we reflect on the quality of our tasks, not just their quantity. The modern world often lauds those who produce more emails sent, more reports written, more hours logged, but Stoicism suggests that many of these outputs could be meaningless if they do not serve a genuine purpose. Thus, you might incorporate a principle of less but better, reminiscent of the Stoic notion of living in harmony with nature by doing well what is necessary. Instead of trying to produce more content or attend more meetings, aim for deeper engagement, more thoughtful contributions, and a more refined outcome. This, in turn, can drastically reduce time wasted on busy work that yields superficial results. I knew a colleague who prided himself on sending 24 emails before lunchtime, but if you looked closely, half were redundant or unclear, spawning further confusion and more emails. A Stoic approach would have him send fewer, more carefully crafted messages, sparing everyone the waste of clarifications. Let us not forget, too, that Stoic clarity about time extends beyond the workplace. Our personal lives, our downtime, also benefit from mindful allocation. Some men sabotage their free hours by drifting aimlessly through them, emerging at bedtime feeling neither rested nor enriched. Perhaps they half-watch television, simultaneously browsing social media, never fully present in either. The Stoic alternative is to ask, how do I wish to spend these evening hours in a way that nourishes me and aligns with my values? It might be reading literature, engaging in a hobby, or having a genuine conversation with a loved one, or simply resting in quiet reflection. By treating leisure as a purposeful choice rather than a default drift, we rescue our personal time from mediocrity. We do not let free hours slip through a sieve of fragmented distraction. One might then ask, but is there no room for spontaneous fun in Stoicism? Certainly there is. The Stoic does not banish spontaneity. The difference is that we do not let spontaneous impulses commandeer our entire schedule without considering how they mesh with our broader commitments. If an old friend unexpectedly invites you for a walk in the park, Stoicism need not forbid you from accepting. If it genuinely serves your need for connection or rest, and does not irrevocably derail a critical obligation, then by all means enjoy the spontaneity. However, if you let every random whim or invitation pull you in, you risk never achieving the deeper goals you set. Again, it is a balance. Stoic principles encourage us to weigh each decision rather than passively saying yes to everything, or conversely, rigidly saying no to all deviations from the plan. Now, let me share another anecdote to illuminate how these Stoic principles can converge. A middle-aged executive I once counseled complained of feeling perpetually rushed, never able to focus. He would begin one task, get interrupted by a phone alert, jump to emails, recall another meeting, rush to that, then scramble at night to catch up. Weekends were no relief, as he felt compelled to monitor work communications. We applied Stoic thinking. First, we clarified his real priorities, both professional and personal. We found that he needed, for his main professional objective, blocks of uninterrupted time to think strategically. He also realized he had been neglecting family time for the sake of trivial availability. So we instituted boundaries, certain hours where he turned off notifications, certain weekend blocks where he left work devices aside unless a genuine emergency arose. We practiced the Stoic idea of ignoring false urgencies, telling colleagues he would respond to non-critical items at set intervals rather than instantly. At first, anxiety gnawed at him. He feared missing something, but as the weeks passed, he realized most messages could wait, and the world did not implode. He found he was producing better strategic plans, regaining enjoyment in family dinners, and feeling less frazzled overall. This success story epitomizes how Stoic alignment can restore time and focus without sacrificing professional performance. Indeed, it often enhances performance by eliminating the noise. But let us also note a final caution. Stoic practice may invite resistance from those who are accustomed to having your time whenever they wish. If you start selectively responding or setting firm boundaries around your focus blocks, some colleagues or acquaintances might bristle. They might accuse you of being aloof or unresponsive. Stoicism would have us accept that external criticism is beyond our control if we are acting reasonably for the sake of virtue and efficiency. We can, of course, explain our approach politely, but if they remain displeased, we do not sacrifice our principles merely to appease them. This is where Stoic courage enters, the willingness to remain steadfast in our chosen course, provided we have examined it rationally and found it worthy. The ephemeral disapproval of others does not overshadow our commitment to living rightly and making the most of the time allocated to us by fate. In parallel, beware of letting Stoic focus turn into cold rigidity. Stoicism is not about building walls around your schedule so high that you never engage with spontaneity, empathy, or communal needs. After all, the Stoics considered humans social beings. If a friend is in crisis or a family member truly needs assistance, Stoicism does not advocate ignoring them in the name of "my plan." Rather, it encourages compassionate responsiveness, so long as we discern genuine need rather than mere convenience. The difference is that we do not let trifling social obligations or manipulative requests hijack our day under the guise of being helpful. We weigh each request carefully, remain open to genuine emergencies, and politely decline or defer lesser demands if they encroach upon core responsibilities. This fosters an environment where we are reliably present for what truly matters, rather than being scattered by every passing whim. Let us now turn to how we can maintain motivation over the long haul. Adopting Stoic time management is rarely a one-shot shift. We might enthusiastically set boundaries, carve out focus blocks, and resist distractions for a few days or weeks, only to backslide under pressure. Stoicism's long tradition of daily reflection, journaling, and philosophical reminders can help us stay on course. You might keep a small notebook or digital note where you briefly track each day's adherence to your time priorities. When you notice a lapse, like spending an hour on a social media rabbit hole, write it down. Consider why it happened. Were you avoiding a difficult task? Were you seeking a quick dopamine fix out of boredom or stress? By identifying the triggers, you equip yourself to address them next time. As weeks pass, this record becomes a map of your evolution, showing patterns of improvement or slippage. This gentle self-observation lies at the heart of Stoic practice. We become our own coach, guiding ourselves with patience rather than berating ourselves or pretending all is fine. In some cases, you might also cultivate an accountability partner. This person, perhaps a trusted friend or colleague, can check in periodically and ask how well you are adhering to your Stoic approach to time. You might share your goals, like avoiding a certain distraction or committing to a specific block of deep work each morning, and let them know if you succeeded or if you struggled. This external accountability can reinforce your internal discipline. If you fear it's unstoic to rely on another for support, recall that even the ancient Stoics valued community, dialogue, and counsel. Epictetus taught in a school, and Marcus Aurelius often mentioned seeking wisdom from those he admired. Having a partner or group does not negate your personal responsibility. It amplifies it, providing feedback and encouragement. Let me also underscore the role of celebration or acknowledgement when you make progress. While Stoicism maintains that virtue is its own reward, a little self-affirmation can help reinforce new habits. If you successfully implement a week of disciplined scheduling, or if you catch yourself resisting an emotional spiral that would have wasted hours, pause to note the accomplishment. You might write a brief line in your journal, or simply reflect in gratitude that you acted in harmony with your convictions. This small recognition cements the neural pathways that encourage similar behavior next time. Over time, as these Stoic behaviors become more natural, you need less overt celebration, but in the early phases, it can be a motivator. We have come far in discussing how Stoic principles, discernment, emotional composure, acceptance of limits, minding the difference between urgent and important, setting firm boundaries, cultivating reflective routines, can yield control over our time and sharpen our focus. But we must not forget one last crucial dimension: how we handle rest and leisure. The Stoic does not believe in unrelenting labor until we collapse. We are human after all, and part of living well is allowing ourselves periodic rejuvenation. The difference is that we rest intentionally, choosing activities that restore our mind or foster bonds with loved ones, rather than mindlessly drifting into empty diversions that leave us as drained as before. We might read philosophy or take a walk in nature, or share a leisurely meal without the intrusion of digital pings. Such deliberate repose, aligned with Stoic calm, can return us to our duties refreshed, not further scattered. Indeed, if you come away from your rest feeling more centered, more at peace, then you have used that time in a Stoic manner. If, by contrast, you finish a weekend of binge-watching only to feel numb and anxious, it suggests that kind of rest was actually an unthinking escape, not a nourishing interlude. Observing these outcomes helps you refine your leisure choices. To wrap up this second portion, let us summarize the central themes. Stoic scheduling that begins with priorities and rational triage, emotional management that avoids time-consuming conflicts or anxieties, a willingness to say no to guilt-driven commitments or trivial tasks, an acceptance of realistic constraints, focusing on what we can control, strategic use of productivity techniques in harmony with Stoic discipline, and the evening reflection or journaling that keeps us honest about our progress. We have also seen how Stoic resilience enables adaptation when the unexpected occurs, preventing meltdown and wasted hours. Through these practices, we gradually reclaim the days that might otherwise slip through our fingers in a haze of distraction, busyness, or resentment. In our final segment, we shall venture yet deeper into the heart of these principles, exploring additional stories, clarifications, and the broader implications for a life shaped by Stoic time management. We will see how these habits ripple out into improved relationships, a calmer sense of self, and ultimately, a legacy of purposeful living. For now, I invite you to reflect on which of these practices resonates most with your current challenges. Is it the morning triage, the Stoic pause to manage anger, the evening review, or the acceptance of limits? Pick one or two to experiment with in the coming days, noticing the subtle shifts in how you command your attention. Because in the final accounting, we do not measure Stoic growth by grand leaps, but by steady, consistent application that gradually transforms the landscape of our habits. May these reflections guide you, as the old Stoics guided me, toward a life in which time is a friend, not a tyrant, and focus becomes a tool for creative, virtuous action rather than a rare commodity squandered on the trivial. My friends, let us now traverse the final stage of our discourse on these 10 essential Stoic principles that help us reclaim our time and focus. We have explored how a clear sense of priority, a disciplined emotional life, a willingness to say no to trivial or illusory obligations, and a capacity for reflection can free us from the chaos of unbridled schedules and ceaseless distractions. What remains is to weave these threads into a cohesive tapestry of daily living to ensure that Stoicism does not remain an academic curiosity, but rather becomes the bedrock upon which we build a more deliberate, centered life. In this final portion, I shall share additional stories, deeper insights, and suggestions on how you might fortify your Stoic practice long after the initial enthusiasm wanes, all while maintaining an accessible style that resonates with men who balance career, family, and personal growth. We begin by recalling that Stoicism, at its core, is a philosophy of action, not merely of passive acceptance. The ancient Stoics held that virtue is expressed in our choices, our deeds, our responses to the daily tests of existence. When we speak of reclaiming our time, we are speaking of reclaiming our ability to act with purpose, rather than drifting through routine or being buffeted by the demands of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote often of how precious each moment is, urging himself not to squander it on trivialities. He recognized that each day, even as emperor, was an opportunity to move closer to moral clarity and to serve the common good. If the ruler of a vast empire saw fit to structure his hours carefully, writing in his journal at dawn, engaging in necessary duties without dalliance, and treating leisure as a chance to reflect, can we not emulate a fraction of that discipline in our own, more modest domains? Let us move to a scenario that is likely familiar. You rise in the morning, and within minutes your phone beckons you with headlines, notifications, messages, each tempting your attention. Before you know it, a half hour or more has vanished, consumed by the stream of fleeting updates. Your mind feels crowded, yet you have accomplished nothing constructive. Stoicism would interject here. Do not let external triggers dictate how you begin your day. The Stoic approach might be to keep the phone or device in a drawer or on silent mode until you have performed a brief morning practice, perhaps reviewing your priorities for the day, engaging in a few calm breaths, or reading a short passage from a philosophical text that orients your mindset. Only after grounding yourself in purpose do you open the floodgates to incoming data, and even then, with an intention not to be lured into pointless browsing. This small shift, delaying your engagement with the world of noise, can safeguard your mental freshness for the tasks that genuinely require your intelligence and creativity. Over time, such a habit can transform your mornings from a frantic scurry to a period of poised preparation. Another angle to explore is how Stoicism teaches us to set a firm boundary between what is urgent and what is merely convenient for others. Have you ever felt that a colleague or acquaintance reaches out at any hour with a request or question, expecting an immediate response? In many modern workplaces, there is a subtle pressure to be perpetually on, with no sanctuary of uninterrupted thought. Yet Stoicism insists that we remain masters of our own attention. If your professional setting allows it, you might designate certain time windows for responding to messages, informing your teammates that outside those windows, you will be deeply focused on priority work. You do this politely, making it clear that if a true emergency arises, you can be summoned, but absent that, you do not scatter your day with incessant interruptions. This approach requires a bit of social courage, for you risk displeasing those who are accustomed to instant replies. But the Stoic man accepts that some measure of disapproval is preferable to being perpetually reactive, never advancing the projects that matter most. As Epictetus would say, external opinions are beyond our direct control. Our duty is to manage our own judgments and actions wisely. If you approach this boundary setting with calm explanation, I work best in focused blocks, so I'll check messages at these intervals. You might be surprised how quickly others adapt or even follow suit, recognizing the wisdom behind it. We might consider next the question of how to handle those fleeting impulses that arise in the mind, little sparks of curiosity that lead us astray. Perhaps you are diligently working on a report, yet a stray thought tells you to check a certain fact unrelated to your immediate task. You search, then see a link to something else interesting, and 15 minutes pass in aimless clicking. By the time you return, your mental thread is lost, and you must rebuild momentum. Stoicism teaches us to watch these impulses with the same vigilance we use to watch strong emotions like anger or envy. In effect, we treat them as impressions that need to be tested. Is this impulse aligned with my present goal, or is it a tempting detour? If it is a detour, we do not repress it or panic. We simply note it, perhaps jot it down as a reminder to look into after we've finished the current block of work. Then we return to the task at hand. Over time, this discipline prevents the fracturing of our attention. We become more adept at staying in a mental flow state, something the Stoics never explicitly labeled, but certainly exemplified in their focus on single-minded action. A friend once described how he conquered his habit of letting random ideas derail his progress. He kept a small notepad by his workspace. Each time a distracting thought popped into his mind, say a curiosity about a sports score or a fleeting urge to check social media, he wrote it down quickly. That simple act acknowledged the impulse but did not indulge it. Later, during a designated break, he reviewed the list. Often, he realized half of the items no longer felt urgent or interesting. This method, though mundane, aligns perfectly with Stoic caution. We do not blindly obey every mental whisper, we subject it to scrutiny. By capturing distractions briefly and returning to the main task, he safeguarded his focus. This technique echoes the Stoic principle of measuring each impression, asking whether it serves the greater good of the moment. We should also revisit the concept of negative visualization, but this time regarding the daily disruptions that can sabotage our plans. Let's say you have meticulously planned your day, allocating time for a key project. Suddenly your child falls ill or a car malfunctions, forcing an unexpected trip to the mechanic. The Stoic who has practiced negative visualization is less rattled. He anticipated that life can upend his schedule, so instead of panicking, he calmly revises, "I must care for my child or address this breakdown now. The project will be deferred but not abandoned. I accept this detour and proceed." By swiftly adapting without letting frustration consume hours of lamentation, he rescues a portion of his focus. Indeed, Stoicism's emphasis on adaptability ensures that even when time is partially lost to genuine emergencies, we do not compound the loss with emotional agitation that claims even more hours. We can look further at an area often overlooked, how we handle transitions between tasks. Many men lose time flitting between responsibilities without mentally closing one task before starting another. The Stoic approach is to finish a task, if possible, or at least reach a natural stopping point, then briefly reflect. Have I done what I can here? Is there any immediate follow-up needed? Then, having satisfied yourself that the current task is either complete or paused properly, you shift your full attention to the next. This mindfulness in transitions prevents the phenomenon where half your mind lingers on an unresolved conversation or undone detail, sapping your presence in the new activity. Even a minute of Stoic clarity, acknowledging you have done your best or clarifying what remains to be done later, can preserve mental energy. This principle extends to physical transitions as well, such as commuting from work to home. Rather than letting work anxieties trail behind you into family life, you might spend a few moments, if you drive or walk alone, mentally closing the day's business, perhaps uttering a short Stoic reminder to leave these concerns behind until tomorrow. For now, I focus on the immediate sphere of my family. In that way, you re-enter your home environment mentally available, not perpetually tethered to office matters. We have not yet discussed the Stoic emphasis on living according to nature. The ancients believed that to live well is to act in harmony with our rational nature and our place in the greater cosmos. How does this translate to reclaiming time and focus? It teaches us that certain rhythms, like rest, physical movement, social interaction, are part of our natural constitution. If we deny ourselves sufficient sleep or become sedentary, we violate the basic conditions of a healthy human life. Eventually, our capacity to concentrate deteriorates, and we find ourselves unproductive despite long hours at the desk. Similarly, if we isolate ourselves from meaningful social contact, we may experience aimlessness, which leads us to seek shallow distractions. Stoicism thus encourages balance, ensuring we do not overwork to the point of neglecting bodily and social needs, nor do we overindulge in leisure at the cost of purposeful action. The Stoic man, in acknowledging these natural rhythms, schedules time for rest, moderate exercise, meals with family, perhaps a walk outdoors, understanding these are not wasted hours but essential replenishment that in turn fosters better focus when work resumes. Without this synergy, we risk burning out or slipping into mechanical busyness that yields diminishing returns. Let me offer a personal memory. In my early 40s, I believed that working late into the night, fueled by coffee, was a sign of dedication. I prided myself on sending emails after midnight, boasting internally that I was outpacing my peers. Over time, though, my mental sharpness eroded, my moods darkened, and small errors crept into my work. In short, I was racing to nowhere. By adopting a more stoic respect for my body's need for rest, going to bed at a consistent hour, ensuring time to unwind, I discovered that fewer total work hours but with a rested mind were far more productive than slogging through endless nights. My creativity and decisiveness improved, and ironically, I completed tasks faster. This lesson crystallized how Stoic living respects human nature. We are not machines to be run at full capacity without breaks. We are organisms that flourish under balanced conditions. Thus, I learned to schedule my day to harmonize with natural energy cycles, devoting morning hours to mentally demanding work and allowing for a mid-afternoon reset if needed. Such alignment not only preserved my health, but significantly boosted the quality of my output. This is a lesson many men in our distracted era have yet to absorb. Now, as we near the end of our discussion, let us consider the enduring legacy of a Stoic approach to time. In the swirl of daily tasks, it is easy to lose sight of the fact that life is finite. Stoicism continually reminds us that we are mortal, that none of us can know how long we have. This awareness should not drive us to panic or morbid thoughts, but rather to a richer sense of urgency, to ensure that each day reflects our highest commitments. If we pass our time in hollow diversions, or if we allow ourselves to be battered by social demands that hold no true meaning for us, we risk looking back with regret. The Stoic man seeks to avoid that remorse by habitually asking, "If this were the last day of my life, would I be content with how I spent it?" This question need not be literal, but it holds a clarifying power. It strips away pretenses. Many tasks we consider essential or urgent shrink under that scrutiny, while the neglected priorities, time with loved ones, creative pursuits, moral duties, assert themselves as paramount. By shifting our daily schedule to reflect those deeper commitments, we secure a sense of peace that arises from living authentically, not from chasing illusions. One might worry that constant awareness of mortality could breed anxiety, but the Stoic tradition argues the opposite. When we accept that life is limited, we stop clinging to distractions and false obligations. We stop deferring what really matters to some indefinite future. Instead, we say, "If I value this endeavor, let me do it now, or at least set it in motion. If this conversation with a friend is important, let me not postpone it endlessly. If I wish to learn a new skill, let me allocate time this very week." That proactive stance not only redeems our days from drift, it also fosters gratitude for the moments we do have. This is the Stoic interplay between urgency and serenity. We act with vigor because we know time is finite, yet we do so calmly because we have shed the frantic obsession with trivial pursuits. It is a balance that requires practice, but once cultivated, it can revolutionize how we experience our waking hours. We would do well, in closing, to remind ourselves that Stoicism does not guarantee a life. Unexpected events, conflicts, and demands will still arise. What Stoic practice promises is that we will not compound these difficulties with our own disorder. We will not let minor provocations balloon into rage that steals half a day, nor will we let an unexpected errand unravel our entire schedule. We approach challenges with the discipline of one who has rehearsed adversity in the mind, who remains anchored in a sense of purpose, rather than flailing at every disruption. Consequently, each day feels more under our stewardship, more attuned to reason rather than whim or compulsion. That sense of self-mastery, however partial, is deeply liberating. Let me share a final story that brings many of these principles together. A younger colleague, newly promoted, found himself overwhelmed by the sudden expansion of his duties. He complained that there were simply not enough hours to handle the onslaught of tasks and messages. I suggested we review how he spent a typical day. We discovered he was constantly flipping between email, chat, and phone calls, seldom devoting more than a few minutes of concentrated effort to any single priority. He also lamented that he had to attend every meeting he was invited to, believing it rude to decline. When we applied Stoic reasoning, we saw multiple solutions. First, he grouped his email and chat checks into 2 or 3 windows per day, informing his team that outside those windows, he'd be focusing on substantive tasks. Second, he politely declined some recurring meetings that offered no real value, explaining that he was happy to read the minutes or provide updates by email. Third, he carved out morning blocks for deep work, resisting any interruptions unless a genuine emergency arose. Lastly, he practiced Stoic acceptance that not every item could be done in a single day. Thus, he prioritized his top 2 or 3 tasks and let minor tasks wait or be delegated. Over the following weeks, he found that far from harming his reputation, these steps earned him respect for his clarity and efficiency. He felt less scattered and discovered that the hours he used to lose in unfocused activity were reclaimed for genuine accomplishments. He even reintroduced some personal interests he had shelved, as he no longer needed to stay late every night. This transformation was a textbook case of Stoic principles in action: honest assessment of what matters, disciplined refusal of false urgencies, emotional composure in the face of potential pushback, and a willingness to let smaller tasks sit if they did not align with his core objectives. As we conclude, let us circle back to the overarching message. You too can adopt these Stoic practices in small increments, beginning with a morning intention, an evening review, a careful approach to scheduling, boundaries against frivolous demands, respect for natural limits like sleep and restorative breaks, and a constant awareness that time is a finite gift, not to be wasted. Over weeks and months, these habits coalesce into a life of greater harmony, one in which your focus is not perpetually hijacked, your emotions remain steadier, and your sense of purpose infuses even mundane tasks with meaning. You will find that those around you respond differently. Some may admire your poise, others may test it. But the Stoic path does not hinge on external validation. It rests on the quiet confidence that comes from living in alignment with reason. In the swirl of modern life, with its unrelenting pace, Stoicism stands as a beacon reminding us that we need not surrender to chaos. We can choose to shape our days by our values, not by the cacophony of external demands. We can protect the space needed for reflection, for nurturing relationships, for honing our crafts. We can do fewer things, but do them more thoughtfully. We can remain unbowed by the swirl of fleeting opinions, and we can find in each moment, however brief, an opportunity to act with virtue and composure. This is what I hope you carry from our explorations, that Stoic principles are not abstractions to be admired from afar, but tools to be wielded daily, forging a life that is truly yours, unburdened by wasteful diversions and fueled by a steady, reasoned will. Let these words stand as our final exhortation. Do not fear the discipline Stoicism asks of you. Embrace it as the discipline that liberates you from aimlessness and shallow busyness, returning you to the present, to the tasks that matter, and to a sense of inner tranquility that no external commotion can fully disrupt. In that tranquility, you will discover that your time and your capacity to focus is no longer a scarce commodity parceled out in anxious fragments, but a steady current you guide toward fruitful ends. You will taste the satisfaction of completing endeavors aligned with your deepest values, the warmth of being truly present with loved ones, and the peace of mind that comes from having tamed the impulses and distractions that once ruled you. That is the gift of Stoic living, a life reclaimed from the clutches of haste, a soul unencumbered by empty obligations, and a heart free to pursue what is truly worthy. May you find it so each morning as you rise to greet the day, each evening as you lay your head down in calm reflection, content in the knowledge that your hours were spent wisely, guided by the calm flame of Stoic reason. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day. Let me invite you to a place I've found over years of studying ancient wisdom, a place where conflicts need not always descend into open struggle. It is a vantage point grounded in Stoicism, a philosophy that has guided kings and slaves, merchants and soldiers through centuries of turmoil. We live in a world that often celebrates domination, aggression, and crushing the enemy, yet the Stoics proposed a subtler form of mastery, one that can defeat enemies without a direct fight. This is not about trickery, nor is it about rolling over to keep the peace. Rather, it's a path of clarity and inner strength, ensuring that you transcend the conflict by outmaneuvering destructive impulses, both in yourself and in those who oppose you. In this three-part exploration, each segment quite expansive, I want to lay out 9 Stoic tactics that, if used diligently, can neutralize hostility, resolve or bypass conflicts, and elevate you beyond petty vendettas. These tactics might be unfamiliar in a modern culture that craves flashy confrontations, but they offer a quieter, more lasting power, the power to overcome ill will without stooping to savage brawls. Some might brand this approach as soft, but once you see how it dismantles an adversary's negative intentions, you'll realize it is an art of mental and moral victory that leaves your dignity intact. Now, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button. Only 15% of my audience is currently subscribed, so if these insights resonate with you, I'd love for you to join our community and turn on the notification bell to stay updated. I speak to you not from a marble podium, but as someone who's lived through many skirmishes, some in the workplace, some in personal relationships, even a few literal threats that tested my composure. In each scenario, the Stoic principles served as a shield I could carry inwardly, guiding me to handle provocation without devolving into destructive combat. We'll begin in this first part with an introduction to the why of Stoic conflict resolution, why it matters, how it aligns with virtue, and how it can preserve your energy for more worthy pursuits. Then we'll explore the first 3 of these 9 tactics in detail, sharing their philosophical underpinnings and pragmatic applications. Let us begin by considering the fundamental premise that you can defeat an enemy most effectively by maintaining mastery over yourself, thereby denying them any real foothold to manipulate or injure you. And the Stoic foundation for defeating enemies. In many conflicts, the real trouble arises not just from the adversary's actions, but from our reaction to them. The older I got, the more I saw people sabotage themselves, driven by anger or fear, into doing exactly what their opponent wanted. Think of Epictetus's words. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If we lose our temper, lash out blindly, or get embroiled in a long vendetta, we might feed our enemy's narrative or weaken our position. To defeat an enemy without a fight, we must first defeat the impulses in ourselves that crave an emotional showdown. Why do we want to avoid open hostilities? Because once we let conflict escalate into aggression, we risk losing our moral footing, incurring damage to our peace, or even causing a chain reaction of harm that spreads beyond the original quarrel. The Stoics would say that real victory is not about subjugating the other person, but preserving your own moral and mental clarity. If you can emerge from the conflict with your virtue intact, your psyche unscarred, and your opponent's hostility neutralized, that is a deeper triumph than any outward show of force. This approach requires discipline, the discipline to manage your anger, fear, and pride, but it also demands cunning, or what we might call strategic empathy, seeing the opponent's angle, anticipating their moves, and preempting them without stooping to viciousness. This is where the 9 tactics come in. Let me outline them briefly so you have a sense of the path ahead. 1. Guard your inner fortress. Control your reactions. Keep calm. Don't let them goad you into emotional overdrive. 2. Use empathy as a shield. Understand their motives, see them as human, disarm their hostility by giving them no demon to fight. 3. Master the art of preemptive respect. Offer them sincere courtesy they do not expect, flipping the script on aggression. Apply the mirror principle. Reflect their behavior calmly, showing them the incongruity of their hostility. 5. Reframe the battleground. Shift the conflict to a domain where you hold advantage, moral, intellectual, or relational. 6. Control the narrative. Maintain the higher ground in how the conflict is perceived by others, anchoring your stance in virtue. 7. Voluntary discomfort. Practice minor hardships to remain unflappable if they try to make you uneasy. 8. Strategic yielding. Occasionally concede smaller points to exhaust their aggression without conceding your core principles. 9. Turn enemies into allies. The ultimate Stoic jujitsu. Transform the relationship by guiding them toward collaboration. This list might seem straightforward, but living it is a different story. Let us delve into the first 3 in this first part, weaving in real scenarios and Stoic logic. By the time we're done, I trust you'll see how these tactics blend together to form a robust strategy for outmaneuvering hostility without brandishing a sword. Tactic 1. Guard your inner fortress. The older I get, the more I realize that half the enemy's power is our own emotional reactivity. If they can provoke us into rage or desperation, they have already won in a crucial sense. We've forfeited our poise. So the first Stoic tactic is building what I like to call an inner fortress, a calm mental stronghold impervious to the enemy's taunts or intimidation. Epictetus famously taught that nobody can harm you unless you let them, for harm primarily arises in your judgments and beliefs. In practical terms, this means cultivating emotional self-control. Let's say your adversary tries to publicly embarrass you or calls you out with a personal insult. The usual reflex might be to retort, to defend your honor aggressively, but from a Stoic vantage, your honor is not in their words or the crowd's reaction. It resides in your virtue. If you refuse to let anger or shame cloud your reason, you remain master of yourself. You can respond with measured calm or even choose silence if that's more powerful. The key is not to yield your inner life to their provocations. How do you train for this? Daily small exercises, purposeful reflection on trivial annoyances. When stuck in traffic or dealing with a rude coworker, practice labeling the event as neutral, choosing not to escalate. Over weeks, you'll find that your reactivity lessens. When a real enemy emerges, their attempts to push your emotional buttons falter. You defeat them in the sense that they cannot manipulate your feelings or steer you into self-sabotage. From a Stoic standpoint, this is the bedrock tactic. Without mastering your own impulses, the other tactics won't help much because you'll easily be flung off balance. In a real example from my life, a competitor at work once tried to bait me with snide remarks about my competence. Early on, I felt the surge of anger, but I recalled Stoic teachings. His words are external, my reaction is mine. I took a breath, asked him calmly to clarify his concerns in detail. He stumbled, not expecting a measured approach. Others watched as I maintained composure, addressing issues rationally instead of exchanging barbs. By the end, I looked like the professional adult, while he appeared petty. This was a small but telling demonstration of how guarding your inner fortress can neutralize an attacker's advantage. Tactic 2. Use empathy as a shield. Enemies often thrive on dehumanization. They paint you as a villain, or they shape you into an abstract foe, fueling their aggression. The second tactic, empathy, is about subverting that dynamic. It might sound counterintuitive to empathize with someone who wants to harm you, but Stoicism teaches that we're all driven by beliefs, often misguided, about what we think is right or advantageous. If you can see the conflict from their vantage, you may detect insecurities, fear, or pride that propels their hostility. By acknowledging these factors, you diffuse your own anger and undermine their narrative that you're an evil adversary. How does this defeat them without a fight? Because once you treat them as a human with concerns, maybe they fear losing status or they believe you wronged them inadvertently, you remove the fuel from their hatred. A Stoic approach might be to calmly address those concerns, or at least show you understand them. This doesn't mean you agree with their stance, but you signal that you see them as a person, not a monster. Often this alone rattles their aggression. They expected you to push back with equal animosity, justifying their enmity. Instead, you respond with thoughtful empathy, leaving them no easy justification to escalate. I recall a scenario where a neighbor was fuming about a boundary line dispute. They insisted I had encroached on their property. Initially, I felt their accusations were baseless, but rather than going legal or exchanging insults, I calmly asked them to show me exactly how they saw the boundary. I listened attentively, validated their frustration about losing yard space, and apologized if there was any confusion. Once they saw I wasn't dismissing their perspective, their combative demeanor softened. We ended up compromising on a minor adjustment to the fence alignment. No lawsuit, no lasting grudge. My stoic empathy had effectively defeated their hostility, not by dominating them, but by meeting them with reason and a willingness to acknowledge their viewpoint. Of course, sometimes your empathy reveals that the adversary is driven by malice or deeply ingrained prejudice. Even so, approaching them with empathy means you do not hate them, you do not demonize them. This steadiness ensures you remain flexible and open to a peaceful resolution if it arises. If it does not, you at least keep your moral clarity, never descending into the venom that so often mars conflict. On Tactic 3, master the art of preemptive respect. This third tactic builds on empathy. Quite often, an enemy expects you to meet aggression with aggression or fear. By offering them preemptive respect, assuming they're a rational human deserving basic courtesy, you disrupt their script. This does not mean you grovel or signal weakness. Rather, you treat them politely and fairly from the outset, giving them no reason to escalate beyond their preconceived hostility. You show them a civil demeanor, address them by name, maybe even inquire about their well-being in a measured tone. The principle is that you deny them the easy storyline of "you're the rude or hostile one." Preemptive respect can baffle an enemy, especially if they're primed for a fight. In some instances, they might interpret it as a sign you're naive or easily pushed over. But if you couple that respect with unwavering calm, from Tactic 1, and a readiness to stand by your boundaries, they realize you're not to be trifled with. You're demonstrating a stoic self-assurance that doesn't need to degrade them. In many historical accounts, foes approached with courtesy find it harder to maintain a hateful stance. There's a story in Roman history of Cato the Younger greeting even his political rivals with politeness, diffusing some tensions. While it didn't make them all best friends, it minimized pointless feuds. One personal example: a business partner was rumored to be trying to squeeze me out of a deal. Instead of confronting him with accusations, I invited him to a lunch meeting. I greeted him warmly, asked about his recent accomplishments, and laid out my perspective on our shared project with transparency. By showing him I respected his role, I effectively told him there was no necessity for underhanded tactics. He could approach me openly. The tension that might have exploded into a legal fight dissolved into a frank conversation. We found a middle ground that served both our interests better than a bitter standoff. This is not magic. It's the Stoic principle that civility can outflank aggression by removing the emotional fuel. You might ask, what if they remain hostile despite my courtesy? Then you sustain your respectful stance, while clearly delineating that you will not submit to unfair demands. They see a person who stands firm in principle, yet does not stoop to rudeness. That contradiction can scramble their expectations. You'd be surprised how many conflicts subside when one party refuses to engage in incivility, effectively leaving the other alone in their hostility. Over time, that lonely hostility often weakens. Stoic perspectives on violence and power. Before proceeding further, Let's anchor these three tactics in broader Stoic thought. Marcus Aurelius often confronted adversity, from barbarian invasions to political intrigue. Yet, in his diaries, he constantly reminded himself to remain humane, to see others' actions as arising from ignorance rather than inherent evil, and to treat even those who wronged him with a measure of decency. The Stoic ethos is that raw force or aggression is a last resort, only if virtue or justice absolutely demands it. Most conflicts, especially personal or professional ones, can be resolved or contained by harnessing the Stoic mind. Calm, empathetic, principled, and strategic. These tactics revolve around a key Stoic insight that hostility from others usually aims to provoke a reaction that justifies further harm or cements their control. By refusing to grant them that reaction, by responding with self-possession, empathy, and respect, you essentially disarm them. It's reminiscent of martial arts, where you use your opponent's momentum against them rather than smashing your fists forward. Some people misunderstand Stoicism as passivity, but as these examples show, it's a proactive form of conflict management that preserves your moral vantage and often defangs the enemy's aggression. Real-life scenarios and cautions. Let me step through a hypothetical scenario to illustrate how these first three tactics, guard your inner fortress, use empathy, preemptive respect, might interact. Suppose a colleague named Jennifer is antagonizing you in departmental meetings, subtly undermining your proposals, rolling her eyes, etc. You sense an evolving hostility. The Stoic approach. 1. Guard your inner fortress. You begin each meeting reminding yourself her barbs can't harm you unless you let them. If she sneers, you remain calm, not letting anger hijack you. 2. Use empathy. Instead of labeling her purely as enemy, you ask, what might be driving her? Insecurity about her own role? A past slight she thinks I committed? You refrain from demonizing her. This shift softens your tension. 3. Preemptive respect. Next meeting, you greet her politely. Ask if there's any input she wants to share up front. Publicly acknowledging her might surprise her. She might have prepared to fight, but your courtesy could diffuse that dynamic. If she still hurls criticism, you respond calmly, focusing on facts. Notice how, by combining these tactics, you give Jennifer fewer reasons to intensify her antagonism. You remain self-possessed. You consider her viewpoint, which might lead to an unanticipated resolution if her hostility was partly from feeling marginalized. By showing her respect, you remove the pretext that you're ignoring or belittling her. Now, if she still persists in hostility, you at least maintain the moral high ground, which sets the stage for the next Stoic tactics we'll discuss in subsequent parts, like reframing the battleground and controlling the narrative. One caution: occasionally, an adversary might interpret your calm and empathy as a chance to push further. If that happens, Stoicism doesn't say roll over. It says stand your ground firmly, but without rancor. For instance, if Jennifer escalates to open sabotage, you calmly gather evidence, address it with management or relevant channels, all the while refusing to engage in personal attacks. Your unwavering composure, combined with factual clarity, can effectively defeat her hostility in the sense that it fails to harm you or your reputation. People see she is lashing out without legitimate cause, while you remain the professional adult. You might call that a Stoic victory, no direct fight, yet your adversary's aggression self-destructs against your rational shield. Another nuance: empathy does not mean letting them walk all over you. You can empathize with someone's fears or motivations while still setting a boundary that says, I won't allow you to cross this line. If they test that line, you calmly enforce consequences, be it withdrawing cooperation, involving neutral mediation or even legal recourse if necessary. Stoicism is about reasoned action, not naive tolerance of harm. Still, most everyday conflicts can be ameliorated before reaching that point if these tactics are diligently applied. Reflection. On Part 1 and Preview, we've laid a robust foundation for how Stoic insight can help you defeat enemies without a fight. The first three tactics revolve around mastering yourself and controlling the emotional climate. By ensuring you do not grant them the reaction they seek, by showing a level of empathy that can transform hostility into dialogue, and by offering a preemptive respect that denies them an excuse to escalate, you can often neutralize a potential enemy or channel their aggression into more constructive discussions. Through these methods, you truly embody the Stoic notion that the greatest power is self-control, not brute force. But these are just the initial steps. In the next installment, we'll examine tactics 4, 5, and 6, which build upon this foundation to handle more complex or persistent forms of enmity. We'll see how to mirror an adversary's behavior in a way that reveals their own folly, how to reframe the battleground so you meet them on advantageous ground, and how to manage the overall narrative so that observers, and possibly the enemy themselves, see you in a position of moral clarity. Together, these tactics produce a synergy that can dismantle even stubborn animosity. For now, let me encourage you to experiment with these first three in small conflicts. If a friend or colleague is snappy, remember to guard your inner composure. Attempt to see their vantage and approach them with a calm courtesy they might not expect. You might be astonished at how quickly hostility deflates when it isn't met with equal aggression. This Stoic approach doesn't just keep your conscience clear, it often paves the way for actual resolution. And if that resolution doesn't come, at least you stand unscathed in principle. We examined the foundational insights: guard your inner fortress, use empathy as a shield, and master the art of preemptive respect. These three tactics revolve around managing your own emotional state, showing genuine understanding of your adversary's motivations, and confounding their expectations by extending an unanticipated courtesy. If you've begun applying them in small, everyday tensions, you may have already seen how quickly conflict can lose its heat when met with calm, respectful clarity. But life rarely stands still at the initial moves. Some foes persist, adopting more entrenched or cunning approaches. Others might yield a bit, then regroup for a second round, determined to undermine you. That's where the next set of tactics comes into play. Stoicism, after all, doesn't advocate naive passivity. It's a philosophy for navigating complex and sometimes treacherous human interactions with both moral uprightness and strategic acumen. In this second part, we'll explore three additional strategies. Tactic 4, apply the mirror principle. Tactic 5, reframe the battleground. And Tactic 6, control the narrative. Each builds on the calm foundation laid by the earlier tactics, ensuring that if hostilities persist, you have further means to diffuse or outmaneuver them, all while avoiding destructive fights. Let us step deeper into these methods, weaving in Stoic rationale and real-life examples so you can see how they operate beyond mere theory. Think of these as layers of defense, and sometimes offense, that maintain your moral composure and turn the adversary's aggression against itself. To the uninitiated, these steps may look like cunning diplomacy. From a Stoic lens, it's simply the practice of virtue, reason, and empathy in action, coupled with a refusal to be anyone's emotional puppet. We'll begin with a tactic that many have found unexpectedly potent: the mirror principle. Now, some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day" so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Tactic 4. Apply the mirror principle. In heated conflicts, your opponent often hurls accusations or behaviors at you that reveal more about their nature than about you. The mirror principle involves calmly reflecting those actions or words back at them, showing them without overt hostility the incongruity or hypocrisy in their stance. Think of it as holding up a mirror so they can see their own reflection. This principle rests on two Stoic ideas. First, that people often act out of ignorance about themselves, and second, that we do not win by forcibly changing them, but by letting them perceive their own contradictions. What does this look like in practice? Imagine a co-worker who frequently interrupts you in meetings, claiming you never let others speak. At first, you might be tempted to correct them or fight back, but with the mirror principle, you calmly note instances where they talk over you or others. Then, in a measured voice, perhaps after the meeting or in a private chat, you describe exactly what occurred. Today, when you said "I don't allow others to speak," you proceeded to cut me off twice and also spoke over James. I'm concerned that this pattern might cause misunderstandings. You are not blaming, you are reflecting the reality of their behavior. In many cases, simply holding up these facts gently can unsettle the adversary's narrative. They expected you to argue, to adopt a defensive or combative posture. Instead, you present them with a mirror that reveals how their accusation is either projecting their own flaw or lacking consistency. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. By calmly describing events, you detach from emotional coloration. You say, in effect, "I'm showing you what actually happened." Why this defeats enemies without a fight? Because it leverages truth without aggression. The Stoic approach aims not to humiliate them publicly, but to place the facts in plain view. If they continue their claims, they risk looking either dishonest or oblivious. Meanwhile, you remain calm, not returning insult for insult. The mirror fosters a moment of self-awareness. If they are at all capable of reflection, they might moderate their hostility rather than escalate it. And if they refuse to see reason, at least you have anchored the conflict in reality, garnering support or credibility from bystanders who notice you're dealing in facts, not vitriol. Potential pitfalls and adjustments. Overdoing it, repeatedly confronting them with every minor hypocrisy could appear petty. Use this tactic selectively for statements or behaviors that are central to their attack. Public versus private. Decide whether to apply the mirror in public or in a one-on-one setting. Sometimes a private conversation is more gracious and avoids cornering them publicly. Other times, they might only relent if the group sees the evidence. Stoic prudence guides that choice. Tone of voice. The effectiveness depends on calm, factual delivery. If you sound accusatory, the mirror principle morphs into a spat. As an example, let's say you have a relative who calls you selfish, but constantly demands favors without reciprocation. A Stoic mirror might involve politely listing the ways you've supported them, or reminding them of instances where you asked for help and they declined. By gently unveiling the imbalance, you undermine their claim that you're the selfish one. You are not demanding they apologize. You're simply revealing the mismatch between their accusation and reality. Often, such clarity either ends the argument or pushes them to self-reflect. Tactic. 5. Reframe the battleground. An adversary frequently chooses a particular battleground for conflict, a domain where they feel strong or can manipulate perceptions. The Stoic strategy of reframing the battleground means shifting the conflict's focus to a terrain where moral clarity or rational discourse holds sway, rather than emotional theatrics. This tactic resonates with how Stoics see external fights. We prefer to operate in the realm of virtue and reason, not in the realm of fleeting passions or cunning advantage. Example of reframing. Suppose a competitor is attacking you on social media, launching personal insults or mocking superficial aspects of your life. If you respond in the same arena, exchanging barbs online, you might feed their advantage because that environment favors drama, not reason. Reframing might involve inviting them to a moderated, constructive dialogue, perhaps a short Zoom call or face-to-face coffee meeting where attention is on substance, not insults. By removing the conflict from the sensational public stage, you reduce the fuel that drives them to posture or flame. Of course, they might refuse, clinging to their comfortable battlefield. But even that refusal can be a quiet victory for you. Observers see that you offered a reasoned venue while they clung to shallow theatrics. Your moral stance gains legitimacy. Alternatively, consider a scenario where someone tries to engage you in petty gossip or rumor campaigns. You might reframe the battleground by focusing on tangible work outcomes or verifiable facts, refusing to dwell on hearsay. If they want to debate your character, you keep pointing the conversation back to quantifiable evidence of your actions. Over time, a Stoic approach reveals that your adversary's criticisms lack substance when placed under the lens of real data. This too is reframing. You politely say, "Instead of discussing rumors, let's examine the actual results," or "I'm happy to address any factual concerns." By refusing to battle on the plane of gossip, you bring it to a plane of logic and accountability, where Stoicism thrives. Why this approach works? It denies the enemy the environment they exploit. Many conflicts flare because one side has home court advantage in a domain of manipulation, like social media drama, emotional outbursts, or backroom politicking. Stoic reframing forces them onto a playing field that honors clarity and principle. You remain calm, reason-based, and consistent, which can greatly diminish the power of their arsenal: insults, rumors, emotional triggers. Caution: reframing works best if you can remain genuinely open to compromise or dialogue in the new arena. If you appear manipulative, as though you're just moving the fight to a place you can ambush them, it undermines the Stoic ethos. The goal is not to trick them, but to ensure that any conflict resolution unfolds under conditions where virtue and truth can prevail. Tactic 6. Control the narrative. In many disputes, the real contest is for the narrative, how the conflict is perceived by others, and how each party's intentions are interpreted. If your adversary paints you as the villain or frames themselves as the victim, public sentiment might tilt in their favor, pressuring you to defend or retaliate. The Stoic tactic of controlling the narrative means shaping the conversation around facts, fairness, and moral consistency, so that even if your foe tries to spin lies, they find less traction. Distinguishing Stoic narrative control from manipulation. Some might say controlling the narrative sounds like propaganda, but Stoicism does not endorse deceit. It advocates honesty, but delivered proactively in a way that clarifies your stance and blocks distortions. You might issue a calm statement of your position, why you made certain decisions, how you see the conflict, emphasizing reason and virtue. If rumors swirl, you address them openly, not from a place of panic, but from conviction that truth stands above rumor-mongering. For example, if a colleague claims you're sabotaging projects, You gather evidence of your collaboration, share it with relevant stakeholders, and reiterate your genuine goal of teamwork. You don't smear the colleague, you simply highlight verifiable facts. This approach preempts the false narrative they wanted to push. Observers see that you are consistent and transparent, while your foes' claims look increasingly baseless. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about living in a way that, if someone accuses you of wrongdoing, your life itself would contradict them. Controlling the narrative aligns with this principle, living and communicating in such a manner that false accusations fall flat, because your record or your consistent virtue stands as a counterproof. When you sense an opponent constructing a negative story about you, you don't rage or hide. You calmly provide the truth. Over time, rational onlookers typically side with substance over slander. Even if some choose to believe the enemy's tale, stoic serenity remains because you've done your part to keep the story honest and grounded. Practical steps for narrative control. 1. Document key interactions. Keep emails or notes of decisions so you can reference them if needed. This is not paranoia, just prudent record-keeping. 2. Address misconceptions. Early. Don't wait until a false narrative saturates the environment. Clarify your stance soon, in a balanced, non-attacking tone. 3. Speak with calm authority. If you react with anger or dramatic flourishes, it feeds suspicion. A stoic, measured manner convinces neutral parties that you are the adult in the room. 4. Maintain integrity in all your communications. If you stoop to half-truths, your own narrative becomes shaky. Better to remain factual and open, even if it reveals minor errors on your part. Authenticity cements credibility. 5. Refuse to engage in character attacks. The enemy might spew personal insults. You respond with facts about the issue at hand, never launching personal barbs. This stark contrast often persuades observers of your sincerity. Such a stoic approach to narrative drastically reduces the likelihood of drawn-out fights. The enemy's attempts to demonize you find less purchase when you consistently show moral coherence. In a sense, you defeat them by making their hostility look irrational or malicious. They might still rage, but they rage in a vacuum as you keep anchoring the discussion in reason and virtue. How these tactics synergize with the first 3. Now, let's see how these new tactics, mirror principle, reframing the battleground, controlling the narrative, combine with our earlier ones: guard inner fortress, empathy, preemptive respect. Guard inner fortress. Plus, apply the mirror principle. Because you remain calm, you can mirror their behavior without injecting your own anger. You're merely presenting facts, not hurling insults back. This synergy prevents escalation. Use empathy. Plus, reframe the battleground. Understanding their motivations can help you choose a battleground that addresses their real concerns rather than fueling their insecurity. Empathy aids you in picking a domain of discourse that might lead to actual resolution. Preemptive respect plus control the narrative. By initially respecting them, you keep your moral credibility high. If they respond with hostility, your respectful stance helps you control how bystanders perceive the conflict. People see you as fair-minded, making your narrative far more convincing. In essence, each tactic complements the others, forming a fluid stoic strategy for managing adversaries. If the foe escalates, you adapt by shifting the battleground or calmly reiterating factual narratives. If they attempt personal attacks, you might employ the mirror principle or simply maintain your stoic composure, illustrating their behavior's baselessness. This synergy ensures that you never sink into raw aggression, yet you are far from powerless. The stoic approach is a quiet power that outlasts emotional storms. A case study, a neighborhood dispute. To illustrate, let's play out a more extended scenario. Suppose you have a neighbor, George, who becomes increasingly hostile over property boundaries and noise complaints. He hurls accusations that you're disrespectful, claims you block shared alley space, and starts telling others in the neighborhood that you're a menace. First, tactics in action. You guard your emotional center, respond with empathy, and show him courtesy. You greet him politely, ask if there's anything specific you can do to address his concerns. He may be taken aback or remain belligerent. 2. Applying the mirror principle. If he claims you block the alley, you calmly record instances of how you park or use the alley, then show him or other neighbors the actual situation. You might say, "George, I'd like you to see that I leave a 3-foot clearance as per regulations. Meanwhile, I noticed your trash bins sometimes spill into the alley." You're not attacking, just reflecting the facts. If he persists in accusing you, he looks less credible. 3. Reframing the battleground. If he insists on ranting publicly, you propose a community meeting with other neighbors or an impartial mediator. By moving from his front yard shouting matches to a structured setting, you shift the environment to one where reason and rules hold sway. He can't so easily grandstand or spread half-truths in a moderated space. This invites him to present evidence calmly. If he refuses, neighbors see who's being unreasonable. 4. Controlling the narrative. You communicate calmly with other neighbors or the homeowners association, explaining your side of the story, referencing actual measurements or local guidelines. You avoid attacking George's character. You focus on clarity. Here's what I've done to respect boundaries. Here's my willingness to cooperate. People see you as transparent. Over time, George's hostility might look baseless, or at least disproportionate. Even if he continues, he'll likely find fewer allies. Without once drawing the conflict into physical or verbal brawls, you effectively neutralize his attempts to paint you as the villain. By combining stoic composure, factual reflection, a reasoned forum, and honest communication, you corral his hostility into a corner where it defeats itself. This is the Stoic ideal of victory without fighting. Addressing criticism that this is manipulation. Some might wonder if these tactics amount to cunning manipulation, a form of passive aggression. Stoicism, however, insists on sincerity. You never lie or feign virtue. You simply choose more constructive ways to confront issues. You do not smear them with falsehoods. You do not ambush them with deception. Instead, you maintain your moral stance, encouraging resolution in a domain guided by truth and civility. If that environment reveals the enemy's contradictions, that's not manipulative. It's the natural outcome of shining a light on reality. What separates Stoic conflict management from mere cunning is your intention. You're not trying to humiliate them. You're trying to end or diffuse the conflict with minimal harm. Your objective is to preserve your integrity and ideally guide them to a more reasonable posture. If they reject reason, you still stand unblemished. That is not manipulation but moral strategy. Where cunning might rely on deception, Stoic approaches rely on clarity and stable virtue, leveraged in a strategic manner. The risk of false accommodation. While these tactics encourage empathy, courtesy, and narrative clarity, there's a potential trap. False accommodation, wherein you become so eager to avoid a fight that you yield core principles. Stoicism does not ask you to sacrifice your legitimate rights or moral boundaries. If your adversary demands something unjust, like cheating on finances or endorsing unethical behavior, the Stoic must refuse. Tactics such as empathy or reframing do not override the imperative of virtue. If the enemy pushes you to commit wrongdoing, the Stoic stance is to stand firm, calmly but unshakably. At that point, if conflict escalates, so be it. You remain ethically consistent, refusing to do evil for the sake of easy peace. Hence, Stoic conflict resolution is never appeasement of wrongdoing. It's about finding non-destructive means to handle conflict unless the other side demands moral compromise. Even then, you can remain polite and calm, but you do not yield your conscience. That stance might lead them to see they can't bully or bribe you, effectively neutralizing their advantage. If they lash out, you harness the tactics we discussed, ensuring they alone bear the blame for aggression. With tactics 4, 5, and 6 in hand, mirroring, reframing the battleground, and controlling the narrative, you possess advanced tools to respond to persistent or cunning foes. Combined with the first 3, guard, inner fortress, empathy, preemptive respect, you can systematically drain their hostility's fuel. If they continue pushing, you remain flexible, presenting them with a calm reflection of facts, guiding the conflict to a domain of rational discourse, and ensuring the broader story reflects your even-handed stance. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.